Mr. Clerk, if you would open the roll, sir.
Roll is open.
Yeah?
Not yet.
Not yet. It's coming.
There we go.
All right. Yes, sir. Please. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here. We have a fairly ambitious agenda this morning, and the first matter we're going to take up is House Bill 154, which is Delegate Ware. Mr. Chairman, welcome to the ever affable Senate Finance Committee.
Mr. Chairman, your affability is renowned. Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be back with you. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to conform my House Bill 154 to Chairman Hanger's conformity bill. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention a conversation I had just a few moments ago with your erstwhile colleague, Congressman Robert Hurt, who sends greetings to all of you. And he said, I'm quoting now, he said, make sure that the oxygen is turned up.
Well, it is nice for him to restore his sensibilities and to come home.
With that, Mr. Chairman, my request would be that you would conform my bill to that of Senator Hanger's.
Mr. Chairman, I would move
Senator
that
Hanger.
we adopt the amendment in the nature of substitute which has been prepared, which conforms House Bill 154 to our previously passed Senate bill.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that House Bill 154, which is an amendment in the nature of the substitute, which is conforming to Senator Hanger's bill, be adopted. Is any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed. And the amendment in the nature of substitute is adopted.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I would just share that Chairman Ware and I have discussed this, and the only difference was there's a provision in the federal law which decreases the threshold for medical expenses from 10% to 7.5%, and it's only a 2-year provision. So it seemed the consensus is that it would not be wise for us to conform just for that 2-year window, and so we are going to deconform on that particular provision as well. And with that, unless there's further conversation, I would move that the bill be reported.
It's been moved and Senator Newman seconds that House Bill 154, amendment in the nature of the substitute, which conforms to the Senate bill, be passed. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by, if you'd open the roll, sir.
Roll is open.
Yes, sir.
Ayes 13, no 0.
The House Bill 154, amendment in the nature of the substitute is reported. Thank you for your efficiency, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The gospel of your affability will go forward.
You have a peachy morning. All right, next I'd like to take up the subcommittee reports, and if I may, Senator Ruff, if we could start with you, please, on economic development, and for those on the dais, if you would direct your attention to the green sheet that is in front of you, which will shed some light on it. Senator Ruff.
Mr. Chairman, this happened a whole day ago, so I'm not sure if I remember, but Senator Wagner's Bill 894 was discussed. We recommended passage so that we can continue to have a conversation as we go forward. Charles, you want to help me out here?
Mr. Chairman, there is a substitute.
Moved and seconded that the substitute to Senate Bill 894 be adopted. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, the substitute is adopted. Senator Ruff, would you like to enlighten us?
No, I'll let Senator Wagner, since it's his bill.
What the bill attempts to do is set up a knowledge phone pool that localities can borrow from to integrate energy efficient into their buildings. encourage localities to escalate the amount of energy efficiency projects they have. The funds would be returned at a no interest, so it's basically setting up a revolving loan fund that allow localities to move forward with these projects. It came at the request of the city of Norfolk, and in fact, former Senator Alexander came at him. What we've done with the substitute, originally the bill asked for a significant portion of recordation fees, and we have since changed the bill to not use that source of funding, but to provide funding from such funds that may be made available. Did that sum that up pretty good? Yeah, I think that's what the bill does, and I'd move to report the substitute, Mr. Chairman.
Before we may take the motion, any member of the Finance Committee have any questions of Senator Wagner regarding the amendment in the nature of a substitute on Senate Bill 894? If not, Senator Wagner is moved and Senator Howell is second that Senate Bill 894 be reported. Is there any discussion? If not, if you would open the roll, please, sir.
Roll is open.
If you'd report the vote, sir.
Ayes 13, no zero.
Ayes 13, no zero. Senate Bill 894, amendment in the nature of substitute is reported. Yes, sir, Senator Ruff. Is that complete? Thank you very much for your leadership on that. Next, Senator Hanger, if you would be kind enough to give us a report on HHR and members of the committee, that would be the yellow sheet that is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have several pieces of legislation that the subcommittee is recommending on. First, I would call your attention to Senate, not in numerical order, but Senate Bill 243, Senator Cosgrove. It was our recommendation to continue that bill to 2019 with a letter to the Secretary of HHR for him to look at this particular issue. It deals with the Virginia Veterans Recovery Grant Program, and so I would move that the bill be continued to 2019. That's SB 243.
Is there a second to that motion? Been moved and seconded that pursuant to the subcommittee's recommendation that Senate Bill 243, the Virginia Veterans Recovery Grant Program and Fund be continued until 2018. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, gosh, dog it. I tell you, you can tell I'm a dinosaur. If you report the vote, sir.
Ayes 12, no zero.
Senate Bill 243 is continued until the 2019 session. Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then continuing Senate Bill 44, Senator Favola, and Senate Bill 636, Senator Donovan, if we could handle those in a block. They're identical bills. We thought we would just send them both over to the House. They deal with the Kinship Guardianship Assistance Program, which we previously supported. It does require adding the clause to both bills, and I would so move.
It's been moved and seconded that those two bills be
Mr.
reported. Excuse me, first of all,
Mr.
we
Chairman,
need to adopt the amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are some
Right, right,
technical
okay.
amendments.
there's other technical amendments as well.
And I've got
Mr.
those
Chairman.
too, but I want to do this right. Okay? The clause we want to add first.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the financial contingency clause be adopted to the two bills. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of adopting the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that amendment is adopted.
Mr. Chairman, I would further, we've been presented with just a series of technical amendments that staff has. So I would move that the technical amendments be added to both Senate Bill 44 and Senate Bill 636.
It's been moved and seconded that technical amendments be adopted. Do we need to report those? Are they truly technical?
I've been in,
Just, Mr. Chairman, they are truly
They're
technical.
truly technical. My next question, Mr. Chairman, is do we need to send two identical bills over there?
we thought it would be fun. They haven't liked this bill in the past, so we'll give them two opportunities.
Well, I'm not sure that's advocating efficiency, but I had a creative idea. But anyway, is there a motion on the two bills?
First to adopt the technical amendments, Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
I'm sorry, thank you. All those in favor of adopting the technical amendments relying upon Mr. Vucci's representation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, and those technical amendments are adopted. Senator Hanger.
With that, Mr. Chairman, I would move that both Senate Bill 44 and Senate Bill 636 be reported.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill, 44 and Senate Bill 204 be reported as amendment. Is any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of reporting those two bills, please signify by saying aye. 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 All those, gosh, dog it. I want to move quicker than the board. If you would report the vote, sir.
15-0.
The two bills are reported for the House of Delegates' consideration. Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next, Senate Bill 159, Senator Edwards. It was the recommendation of the subcommittee that it be reported, but it has significant fiscal impact to the general fund that's applied to Medicaid. So I would move that we add the financial contingency clause.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the financial contingency clause be added. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
That clause is adopted. Senator Hanger.
Mr. Chairman, I move that Senate Bill 159 as amended be reported.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported. Any discussion? Hearing none. If you'll open the roll, sir.
Roll is open.
If you would report the vote, sir.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
The Senate bill is reported. Senator Hanger.
Mr. Chairman, I would next call your attention to Senate Bill 203 and Senate Bill 204, which if there are no objections, I'll try to handle both of these in a block. The recommendation is that they be reported, but with the financial contingency clause. I would say that on both of these issues, there have been a couple occasions that we have reported these with the clause, but then failed to fund them from TANF funds or general fund. But with that, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we add the clause to Senate Bill 203 and Senate Bill 204.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 203 and 204 be reported. Were these the food stamp and TANF bills on people who have been previously convicted of criminal offenses?
Right. That the food stamp, Senate Bill 203, food stamp eligibility for drug-related felonies, allows first-time felony offenders convicted of distribution of marijuana to be eligible for food stamps, has a $30,000 general fund impact that would have to be appropriated. Senate Bill 204 is drug-related felony, allows eligibility for TANF for individuals convicted of a drug possession felony. It has non-general fund contingency from the TANF funds.
Based on my independent recollection, which is frail at best, that this was not so much a fiscal issue as it was a policy issue. It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 203 and 204 be reported. Is any further discussion on these bills? If not, if you would be so kind to open the roll, please, sir.
The roll is open.
Yes, sir, please.
Ayes 7, noes 8.
Those two bills are not reported. Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next up is my bill, Senate Bill 560. We have a substitute. I would move that deals with long-term employment support services. I would move that we adopt the substitute.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that the amendment in the nature of substitute to Senate 506 be adopted. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of adopting the substitute signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, and the substitute is adopted. Senator Hanger, while they're distributing it, could you perhaps share with us what that's all about?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is a somewhat complicated issue, but the simple explanation for it is that we are codifying the two programs that only exist in the Appropriations Act. The committee, the subcommittee spent a good bit of time on this and then unanimously recommended that we codify the provisions of long-term support services in this manner.
Okay. Does any member of the committee have any questions of Senator Hanger regarding the amendment in the nature of substitute to Senate Bill 560? If not, ladies and gentlemen, the bill is before you.
Move it be reported.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 560, amendment in the nature of the substitute, be reported. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll open the roll, please, sir.
Roll is open.
If you report the vote, sir.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, nays 0, the bill is reported. Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 27, Senator Stanley, was his effort, a creative effort at providing scholarships in a pilot program through TANF funds for low-income individuals for community colleges. We supported the policy. We're a little concerned about whether or not we can come up with the appropriation from the available TANF funds, but we did recommend that we attach the clause and then report it. So I move that the financial contingency clause.
It's been moved that the financial contingency clause be affixed to Senate Bill.
It already has the clause on it. That's right. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. This one came from Education and Health. Senator Newman had already done that ahead of time, so this is good. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll just move it be reported.
Well, it just reaffirms my belief in how efficient Senator Newman is. It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 27, as referred to us from Education and Health on a 15-0 vote, be reported. Is any discussion? Open the roll, please, sir.
Roll is open.
If you report the vote, sir.
14, no zero.
Senate Bill 27 is reported with the clause that pre-existed. Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this one, we will have to add the clause. Senate Bill 225, Senator Stanley, which would require a significant amount, 1.65 million potentially, of general funds for a pilot program. Mr. Chairman, the title is not sufficient for it now. It is actually a very creative program that's been worked on in his region. I think the only criticism that the committee had of this particular measure was, wow, this should be something, if we had the money to do it, that we should do statewide. So I would move that we add the financial contingency clause.
Is there a second to add the financial contingency clause to Senate Bill 225? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of adopting the contingency clause, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the contingency clause is adopted.
Mr. Chairman, with that, I would move that the bill be reported.
Mr. Chairman, I just would share with you, I had a little bill coming out of courts that could significantly address the opioid crisis on a statewide basis. So, any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am. Senator Howell.
I would also.
Welcome back. We're delighted to see you this morning.
I must tell you, I'm delighted to be back. I just wanted to add that it's an excellent program Senator Stanley has put together, and it would be very easy for us this year to make it go statewide.
Thank you very much. Any further comments? All right.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 225, with the amendment of the financial contingency clause, be reported. If you'd open the roll, sir.
Roll is open.
If you would report the vote, sir.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, nays 0, the bill passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That completes the report of the HHR.
Thank you very much,
Subcommittee.
Senator Hanger. You all have been working very hard over there. Senator McDougal, if you could do public safety, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little peaked. I blame my kindergartner for the Petri dish that she goes to school. Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 726 came to our subcommittee, had no public safety impact or physical impact, and so we recommended reporting, and I'd so move.
Is there a second to Senate Bill 726? It's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported. Is any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Oh, daggone it, if you'd open the roll. Man, I can't get reprogrammed.
Vote is open. The roll is open.
If you report the vote.
Ayes 16, no zero.
Ayes 16 with a full contingency now. The bill is reported.
Mr. Chairman, if the chairman is amenable, every other thing is in a block of one or more, and I can move them in block and people can pull them out.
Yes, sir, that would be fine. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 47 and Senate Bill 465. Senate Bill 47 is Senator Black's bill creating a new felony for female genital mutilation, and Senate Bill 465, Senator Reeves' bill, adding members of the United States Armed Forces to the individuals that could be harmed by malicious bodily injury of pointing a laser. The subcommittee's motion was to add the contingency clause to each of these. They had a Woodrum impact and then recommended reporting with the clause to see if we could continue the conversation.
Thank you, Senator McDougal. Is there a second to that? Second. Been moved and seconded that the two bills that Senator McDougal just referenced from Senator Black and Senator Reeves be reported as the clause has been added on those. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor of reporting those two bills, where the roll will be open.
Roll is open.
If you report the vote, please.
I-16, no zero.
Ayes 16, no zero. Those two bills are reported. Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the next were Senate Bill 436, which was Senator Wexton's bill. This dealt with the classification of fentanyl derivatives. This was one that was included in the budget. As we started looking, we heard last night from Department of Forensic Science that this would only impact 4 potential cases last year that wouldn't also have a felony. So our recommendation will be to carry over. There's a process that Forensic Science goes through to get these derivatives on the Schedule I list, making them illegal under the Board of Pharmacy. And we thought that the expenditure of the revenue based on the very small number of cases was not enough, but we wanted to keep it within the breast of the committee and carrying over for the year in case something changed, because it is a substantive topic. The next one, Mr. Chairman, is Senate Bill 737. It's
Excuse me, are you doing these in the block? Or?
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
both of these are same motion in the block.
Thank you, sir.
Senate Bill 737, Senator Serval's also had a fiscal impact. This is dealing with first offense DUI licenses, and after going through it, because they have fiscal impact, we think that there's more work to be done, but it's an important topic, so we recommended SB 436 and 737 be carried over the year, and I'd so move.
Second, it's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 436 and Senate Bill 737 be carried over for this year to the 2019 session. Is there any discussion? If not, if you would open the roll, please, sir.
Roll is open.
You report the vote, please, sir.
I-15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero, and those bills will be carried over for the year.
Mr. Chairman, then we had the remaining bills in our subcommittee. Senate Bill 1, Senate Bill 79, Senate Bill 381, 398, 408, 479, 563, 666, 729, 797, and 828. Mr. Chairman, there was recommendation that each of those bills be passed by indefinitely. Some of them had merits, and as we looked through all those, the challenge with our subcommittee, which I think always has some very difficult decisions to make, is that even though a number of items in that list had merit, we have been tasked with taking care of our current obligation first before we make new felony offenses in each of these, because the Woodrum impact has some new felony offense or new incarceration time that's added. So I would move that all be passed by definitely. Mr. Chairman, I would add that there was probably, I think on Senate Bill 1, 79, and 797, the vote was not unanimous. So you might want to do the 3 of those differently. 1, 79, and 797.
Senator Howell moves and Senator Wagner seconds that 179 and 797 be taken out of the block, unless there's an exception. If not, all in favor of removing those 3 bills from the block signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. It's been moved and seconded that the remaining bills in the block be passed by indefinitely. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of passing by indefinitely those bills in the block which are up there on the tote board. Please note by voting when the vote is open.
Vote is open.
Report the vote, please, sir.
Ayes 16, no zero.
Ayes 16, no zero. Those bills so noted that were recited by the chairman of the Public Safety Subcommittee and are noted on the board will be passed by indefinitely. Why don't we take the three remaining bills, 179 and 797, up individually?
Okay, I would also note that in that last block, a couple of my bills perished as well. So it was, there was no chairman prerogative there. Move that with a recommendation from the subcommittee that the bill be, SB 1 be passed by for the year due to fiscal impact, I'd so move.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Senator Evans' Senate Bill number 1, which is basically the bump stock bill, I believe, be passed by indefinitely. Is there any discussion on that? If not, if you would open the roll, all those in favor of passing by indefinitely signify by your vote.
And well,
If you would report the vote, sir.
ayes 10, no 6.
Ayes 10, no 6. Senate Bill number 1 on the bump stock bill is passed by indefinitely. Senator McDougal.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 79, Senator Lucas's bill. This is one we've looked at in previous years, dealing with the prohibition of firearms at certain preschools or child daycare centers, and I think those are all private, the way the bill is. And we recommended that it be passed by indefinitely due to fiscal impact.
Is there a second to the motion on Senate Bill 79? It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 79 by Senator Lucas, which are dealing with firearms being prohibited at certain preschool and child daycare centers, be passed by indefinitely. Is there any discussion on that bill? If not, if you would please note your vote when the roll is open. Report the vote.
Ayes 11, noes 5.
Ayes 11, noes 5. Senator Bill 79 is passed by indefinitely. Senator McDougal.
Mr. Chairman, and then the final bill is Senator Howell's Bill 797, dealing with certain types of protective orders. We dealt with protective orders last year, but this was a category that was not included. It's stylistically a different category, and because of fiscal impact, the subcommittee recommended to pass by indefinitely due to fiscal impact. And I'd so move.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that Senator Howell's 797 relating to protective orders be passed by indefinitely. Any discussion? If not, open the roll, please, sir.
Roll is open.
If you report the vote, please, sir.
Ayes 11, noes 5.
11 to 5, Senate Bill 797 is passed by indefinitely.
Mr. Chairman, I think that completes our report, and I'd really like to thank the members of the subcommittee for their efforts. It is a daunting task, and they handle it very well, and I am very appreciative.
Thank you, Senator McDougal. I know that you're not at 100%, so thank you very much for doing that this morning. I believe that completes all of the subcommittee reports, and we are now prepared to move into the non-member reports, unless I have had another oversight. We good? All right. Senator Chafin, are you here somewhere? Nope. Senator Reeves.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I appreciate your time this morning. I have two bills before the committee. Take up Senate Bill 473 first.
473, committee.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this comes at the request of the Joint Leadership Council Veteran Service Organization, made up of 26 veterans organizations, part of their policy workup. This is income tax subtraction for certain low-income, 100% disabled veterans. What this bill is designed to do is allow individual income tax subtraction for the amount of annual retirement compensation received for service as a member of the United States Armed Forces or the National Guard. goes into if they have 100% service-connected disability, the bill would limit the subtraction to only those taxpayers whose federal adjusted gross income does not exceed 250% of the federal poverty level. I know there's a House Bill 792 that's identical, but it takes it not to exceed 150% of the federal poverty level for a four-person household. Mr. Chairman, let me just make this statement, and because I kind of understand where we are with regard to the budget. And I think this is probably one of the harder things that we all have to do as sitting members is have the ability to say no, like a parent to a child some days that wants to go to a movie. We have a lot of great initiatives. Some of them all boil down to the budget. I understand this is a pretty impactful line item to the budget, as well as the next issue I have that came from JLC. My only request to the committee would be if there's a way to study the issue over a period of time, because it has to do with taxation. We are blessed in the Commonwealth in that we have the most veterans out of all the states, and we have that. That's also a curse in some breaths with regard to what our veterans would like to receive. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's the bill.
All right. Any member of the committee have any questions of Senator Reeves on Senate Bill 473?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hanger.
Thank you. As Senator Reeves alluded to, and I appreciate his comments on it, it's tough for us when we have something that you'd like to do and can't quite do at the present time. I think we will be looking, I know we will be looking at modifications, reform in our tax system over the next couple of years. And I think of the two bills you have in front of it, this one certainly has merit that may be affordable in a better year. But with that, I would move that the bill be PBI'd, but that we take up the subject when we are looking at tax reform.
Senator Hanger's moved to PBI 473, but taking the subject up. Is there a second? Okay. Any further discussion on the bill? If not, it's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 473 be passed by indefinitely with the subject matter to be taken up. If you'd open the roll, sir.
Roll is open.
If you'd report the vote, sir.
Ayes 15, no 0.
The matter is passed by indefinitely and on 16-0. Yes, sir. Senator
Mr.
Reeves.
Chairman, knowing that the next bill I have is very similar, as mentioned by your co-chairman, Senate Bill 480. Again, this is an effort in which we tried to figure out a 5-year phase out. Again, it's one of the JLC's top initiatives, which I think has a lot of merit as well. At least 34 states offer some form of tax benefits to taxpayers receiving military retirement. I think this tries to get us in a position where we can be very similar to Texas, Tennessee, and Florida, in which we lose a lot of retirees, military retirees, to those states based on their tax preferential status for those who have worn the cloth of the country. So with that, knowing where this is going, Mr. Chairman, love to have this go in there as well.
Okay. Senator Reeves, are you clairvoyant?
Been here, done that, sir.
Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Senator Reeves indicated, and this one is a little tougher even for the future. I think there could be some incentives perhaps we could provide with additional deductions for military personnel and retirees. Pretty significant because of the fact that we do have so many of these individuals that we're very proud to have in our Commonwealth. But I would move that we PBI the bill, but also address the issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 480 be passed by indefinitely. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by the roll.
Roll is open.
Report the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
The bill is passed by indefinitely. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for bringing those matters to us. Senator Sturtevant.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, sir.
Members of the committee. I was hoping, if it's the pleasure of the committee, to take my bills a little bit out of order and look at.
You are the master of your ship, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if we could look at Senate Bill 937 first. This is an apprenticeship tax credit bill. I wanted to take them out of order because my other two bills are tax relief bills, and I suspect I know how they will go.
Two
This
clairvoyants in a row.
A little bit. This apprenticeship bill is especially important to me and my district, and I know Senator Dance's district as well. We both represent the city of Richmond. I brought this bill. There's an identical companion bill in the House that my colleague and friend Delegate Jeff Bourne is carrying. He and I and several other of the newer legislators took the tour of the Newport News shipyard a couple of months ago that I know many of you have taken previously. And one of the things that, as both Delegate Bourne and I, as former members of the Richmond City School Board, were especially impressed with the apprentice school at the Newport News shipyard and the phenomenal work that they do in advanced manufacturing. And when we left that tour back in October, we put our heads together to try to come up with an opportunity that we could start as a pilot program in the city of Richmond, specifically for juniors and seniors of Richmond City public high schools. And one of the reasons that we put our heads together and worked together on this was when we served on the school board. One of the things that we often saw, and this is a good thing, a laudable goal, was that, and this is in many school systems, if not most school systems across Virginia and across the country, that we put a very intense focus on trying to get every single student into a 2 or a 4-year college. And that is a laudable goal and an important goal. I think it sometimes, however, can result in us taking us eye off the reality of the fact that not every child is going to go to a 2 or a 4-year college. And that is a good thing, and that is the reality of it. But that results, I think, in an unintended consequence of us not preparing those students as well to get their high school diploma, walk across the stage on a Friday, and then on Monday morning start working in a good job. So Delegate Bourne and I came up with this apprenticeship program tax credit bill, which would be very limited in scope. It would be specifically for only 25 Richmond City public high school juniors and seniors. The tax credit would be available to businesses in the Richmond area. It would be a $2,500 a school semester tax credit, so a maximum of $5,000 per year per employer. And the school system, in consultation with the governor's new secretariat regarding workforce development, the superintendent of Richmond Public Schools would identify high demand areas where we could place those 25 Richmond City Public School high school juniors and seniors. And as an incentive to help defray the cost of bringing on those students, we would provide those tax credits to those businesses. But we also wanted to make sure that the students were earning something as well. And sort of, if like we have paid internships in college, this would be similar in the sense that it would be a paid apprenticeship for these high school students. And so there would be a stipend that would then go to the high school students as well for them to earn money while they are learning a trade, whether it is in a high-tech field, whether it is in something like coding or otherwise, whether it is in the HVAC field or plumbing or welding. This would be an opportunity for these students while going to school after hours, after school, to be able to get some real-world experience, to get into a job that can turn into a career for them after graduation.
All right, thank you for bringing that very creative and aspirational thought to us. Does any member of the committee have any questions of Senator Sturdivant regarding Senate Bill 937? Is anyone who would like to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone who hasn't? Come along, come along.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, James Pickrell, representing Richmond Public Schools. We support the bill. We'd like to thank Senator Sturtevant for bringing it forward. We feel it will afford the opportunity for our students to attain some real-world workforce experience and better prepare them for the future. So we would ask the committee to support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pickrell. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ryan Dunn with the Virginia Chamber of Commerce. We support the bill. We've been taking the mantra for the past few years that there's more than one path to success. It is something we continuously are trying to encourage people and understand the benefits of the apprenticeship. I think this is a pretty narrow in scope, a first good attempt at trying something like this. That we see other tax credits in fields where we know the middle skills is really where we need to be focusing our attention on. So with that, we hope you support the bill.
Thank you very much, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Andrew Lamar on behalf of the RVA Technology Council. A lot of our members have high-demand jobs that they're having trouble filling today. A lot of our members have work that is currently being offshored that have innovative ideas about how to bring some of that work back to Virginia, to Richmond. I think this is an innovative approach, would help some of them bring some of the RVA students into those programs. I know Senator Donovan's familiar with some of that work as well, so would appreciate your support for the bill. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Howell.
may I ask him a question? Yes. If these are such high-demand jobs and you have so few people available, why don't you pay for it yourself?
Certainly, in some cases, it makes more financial sense than others for some of those positions and jobs and employers, but perhaps some businesses don't have that ability, or this would help them sort of get over the hump to make it more attractive for them to do this for these students. Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Chairman, I
Senator
think
Howell.
that as we get creative, we need to have the business community participating as well and not depend on the public trough. Thank you.
Ma'am. Thank you.
Before you leave, I don't read the newspapers, but I was down there at 8th and Broad Street, and I heard a couple of people talking that the mayor was suggesting maybe about increasing a meals tax to help the schools out. Do you think perhaps this could be a component of that?
I don't have a thought on that. We're not, certainly not involved in the meals tax.
Well, you're a very bright and insightful young man. How can you not have a thought? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Senator Newman.
Mr. Chairman, I hope we'll do this, and the reason is that I just hope that also the education committees will get the data from this, because for far too long, we have funded programs that continue and continue and continue in the budget, and we get no metric back from them. This is a relatively small dollar amount with a very clear metric that's to come back to this committee and hopefully to the committees on education. We need to find things that work, and then that doesn't mean we need to fund them forever. We do need to have areas of innovation like this. So I appreciate Richmond kind of coming forward and saying we're going to try to do this. I think some matching money would be a good idea at a later time, but I hope we would do this, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Wagner.
Just to kind of echo and pile on, career technical education has been a major proponent of mine. When we have an education system and we have all these technical jobs available, yet no one's available to fill them. Obviously, we have a problem with our education system if we're not training and educating students to fill the jobs that are available today. And I think this is one small measure with a metric that'll give us the opportunity to say, is this the right direction? Is this the right way to go? When you consider the billions, literally billions of dollars we spend across the state in public education, I think it's altogether appropriate that we look for some innovative programs out there that might lead a pathway so when students graduate, they have a reasonable prospect of gaining employment.
Thank you, Senator Wagner. Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to throw my weight behind it as well and just simply say that the next horizon, I think, for us in education and workforce is connecting the business to education. And we talk about it, but we don't have many constructive ways to do that yet. And if this model and pilot helps us develop those connections, that may be the most important stuff that's involved in this, is how we do this as opposed to the money that we put forward. In my district, I have a business that came forward that manages the hardware for all of the IT, the servers, the processing, everything we do. all of that intellectual education or knowledge for that entire industry has grown up as the hardware was created. There are no training programs for that. And that workforce is about to age out, and they were desperately trying to connect with high schools and others to train high school kids that had an affinity for this, not just for coding, but for the hardware portion of this. So this is a great way for us to start connecting some of our smaller businesses to the workforce that they're going to need in high school. So I think it's a great bill.
Thank you very much. Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Sturtevant was kind enough to share this bill with me ahead of time, so I'd gone through it. I live in a different world, so I have to think about this a while. In the valley, we are blessed.
Have you thought long enough?
We're blessed in that we have a commitment in the local school systems, specifically Rockingham and Augusta County, where we have very active VOTEC centers associated with the school system, and they are supported. I think down Senator Vogel's way too. They have a good one down at Triplet. Yeah. At any rate, and the business community is involved. They kick in their time and energy and money, and they identify the jobs that need to be filled, and it works very well. I think this is a good idea, but we have to view it really as a pilot program, because the weakness is we're doing it for Richmond and nobody else if we do this. But I think if we move this forward, and it does have some financial, a modest amount, but I would move we attach the financial contingency clause.
Okay. There's a motion to put the financial contingency clause on it. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that the contingency clause be put on Senate Bill 937. Is there any discussion? All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, move the bill be reported.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 937 as amended be reported. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please note your vote.
Roll is open.
You report the vote, sir.
I 16, no 0.
That bill is reported with the clause, Senator Sturtevant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Very much appreciated. Very briefly, I have two additional bills before the committee, Senate Bill 745 and Senate Bill 759. Both are tax reform, tax relief bills, and this committee is always very patient with me when I have brought these bills now the third year in a row. These two bills are slightly different than the others. And again, I see the writing on the wall and recognize that these are not likely to be reported. And when I bring these bills, I recognize how Senator Survell feels when he is in front of courts committee. But I always, even if I don't always agree with him, I have a lot of respect for him. And I think it's important to bring these bills so that we continue to have this conversation, because even though I recognize that it may not be the will of the committee to advance legislation like this this year or the last couple of years, I suspect that their time will come at some point. And I hope when that time does come, whomever carries it on this committee will let me co-patron as a remembrance of me bringing these bills. But the first bill, 745, is a bill that increases the standard deduction for single taxpayers and married couples. It's been a long time since we have updated these deductions or these thresholds. Since 1989, the Virginia standard deduction for single taxpayers has been $3,000 a year since 1989. And since 2005, the standard deduction for married taxpayers has been $6,000. This bill basically doubles the single and the double standard deductions. It takes the standard deduction for single individuals from $3,000 to $6,300, and it takes the standard deduction for married couples from $6,000 to a little over $12,000. And this is to recognize that we have not updated these standard deductions in more than a decade. And for the case of individual single filers for going on 30 years now. And of course, these numbers don't keep up with the cost of inflation, so this bill would also tie these standard deductions to inflation so that they would continue to tick up as time goes on and as inflation increases. But again, I bring these bills, since I've been here, at least once a week, we have a bill before one of our committees or before the full Senate that is either seeking to give authority to someone or some entity the ability to raise a new tax or create a new tax. It's less often that we are looking at the other side of the ledger and how it impacts the folks who are paying those taxes. And so it would be my request that, recognizing that this bill and the second bill that I've got, Senate Bill 759, which is a modest reduction in the personal income tax rate. It's a 10% across the board reduction in the personal income tax rate, which when it is all said and done would take the current 5.75 and reduce it to only about 5.1%. Is a pretty modest, I would contend, reduction in the personal income tax rate, recognizing that there is a significant fiscal impact. But what I did to try to make that 10% across the board reduction in the income tax rate a little bit more palatable was to phase it in over a 3-year period. So it'd only be 3 1/3% of a reduction at a time. And to try to make it even more palatable, I linked it to economic growth. And so it would only kick in, the reductions would only kick in when the Virginia GDP is 3% or more. And I meant to bring the spreadsheet that I had from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, but it's been a while in Virginia since we have had economic growth at 3% or more, and certainly since pre-recession, well before the recession, that we had economic growth like that. But the contention is that if we are growing at 3%, that would be a time that a modest tax reduction phased in over time would be most appropriate. But again, recognize the challenges that we face and appreciate the committee at least considering it. And even if it is not these bills as drafted that the committee considers when putting together the budget, perhaps there is some opportunity in there for ideas like this, as you're doing the hard and good work that you do and that we appreciate, those of us who are not on finance.
Well, you use the descriptive term palatable sometimes where you go out for an exquisite meal and you're looking forward to that hot fudge sundae as a dessert. You find that you're satiated before you get there and just don't quite have the appetite to even absorb that palatable dessert. So I appreciate you bringing the bills before us. So, ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill 745 and Senate Bill 759 are before you. It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 745 and Senate Bill 759 be passed by indefinitely in a block. Is there any discussion? If not, please register your vote.
Motion up, Mr. Chairman. The vote is open, sir.
If you would report the vote, please, sir.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you
Members of the
very
committee.
much for bringing those matters before us. Senator Marston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 390.
Direct your attention to
Could you-
Senate Bill 390.
I have just a quick handout, Mr. Chairman.
Did you have any technical amendments to that, sir? Senator Hanger moves and Senator Howell seconds the adoption of the technical amendments to Senate Bill 390. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, and those amendments are adopted. Yes, sir, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't mean to take the great deal of time of the committee. This is part of a much larger discussion that needs to be had here in the Commonwealth. But this is an attempt at tax restructuring that was I've worked on for the past year with the Commonwealth Institute to get our tax base to be a little broader and resistant to some of the ebbs and flows of our economy. And it was designed to be revenue neutral or close to it. And I think, as you'll see from the handout, it ends up sort of being a minus 12 million to the state, but who knows, that might just be a rounding error. But we approached it in four ways. One was with some revenue enhancements, with some lower taxes on businesses, with reform of some costly tax expenditures, and with some equity enhancements. And just very quickly, Mr. Chairman, we've enacted a new top individual income tax rate, expanded the sales tax to include more services, reinstated the estate tax, although very interestingly, it was pointed out to me by the national writer for the Washington Post that with regard to the inheritance tax or the estate tax, is that you can get almost to the same number if you just tax capital gains prior to their transfer in the estate, that you wouldn't need to do that, which would kind of protect small businesses and farms, which I thought was interesting. And a lot of what I've learned since filing this bill has come from folks who've read it, looked at it, and had suggestions. And but the bill also increases the state cigarette and tobacco tax. It lowers the corporate rate by a full point. Eliminates double dipping issue with certain state tax credits, fixes the online hotel tax loophole, which I can remember former member Mary Margaret Whipple bringing before this body a number of times, extend the sales tax to digital downloads, and some equity enhancements are moved to a refundable earned income tax credit, which was probably inartfully drawn in terms of it didn't include the narrow scope of what it was intended, and probably had to, as the tax people reported in their response to the bill, that it leads to a much greater deficit to the state, if you will. And finally, we've eliminated the sales tax on groceries, which I know is part of the governor's initiative. Mr. Chairman, I have spoken with Delegate Ware of the Tax Preference Committee. He would welcome this bill if it were continued till next year and referred to his commission for study. And I think it is part of a larger discussion. Delegate Glenn Davis in the House of Delegates had some similar musings on our tax structure that I think it's time we started this conversation to broaden our tax base, perhaps get it wider, get it shallower, a little less resistant to some of the bumps in the economy. That's what the bill does. Bills are used to communicate things and to the body. And I think taking a look at this is important, and that would be my request, is that the bill be considered in that way to Delegate Ware's commission.
Well,
Thank you, Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Marston, first of all, and I mean this sincerely, I know you put a lot of effort in it and worked with some various resources and bringing forward an interesting concept. It reminds me a little bit of that Brunswick stew I had the other day. It's got a lot of different ingredients in it, and whether or not it comes out with as a palatable recipe at the end, I don't know, but you certainly raised some interesting questions on that. Does any member of the committee have any questions of Senator Marston? If not, is there anyone who'd like to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the bill? If not, oh, I'm sorry, come on forward. I didn't see you over there, I apologize.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Victoria Cobb, President of the Family Foundation. Obviously, there's a lot in this bill, just two provisions we just want to point out every time we review taxes that we would be concerned about in this bill. The first one is that it takes our very effective school choice program, the EISTC program, and it would no longer allow someone to claim the credit if they put the deduction in their taxes, so we would be concerned about that. That program is still in its infancy, and it is doubling every year. There are 2,400 kids that are receiving scholarships on that. So we want to preserve that in anything that we do on taxes. And of course, we would have concerns over any change in the estate tax, as that does hurt families who have just worked hard and saved and are trying to transfer a nest egg to their next generation. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cobb. We appreciate it. Anyone else who'd like to be heard? If not, ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill 390 as amended is before you. Senator Hanger.
Mr. Chairman, I guess the question really for us is whether we would continue the bill or just PBI it. I was inclined to first continue it, but we've just set a precedent here with the other bills that we had in front of us of laying it on the table. then referring the subject matter. Is that,
I think it would be most appropriate to go to Delegate Ware's group that looks at tax preferences. I don't know what the mechanism for getting that there, because that would be outside the rest of the committee.
okay. Mr. Chairman, then I would move that the bill be PBI'd, but the subject matter be referred to the Tax Preference Subcommittee. But I've also mused that we'll be looking at some of the tax reform issues in the fiscal stress committee, joint committee as well. But I think if Delegate Ware is amenable to looking at this.
I have spoken to him, and he would welcome this as an addition to
we can
what
do
they're
that by
going
letter,
to
then.
be dealing with. Letter would be great. Thank you.
Okay, okay.
Senator Hanger, I got to stop you from spending too much time over in the House. You're picking up their lexicon by talking about laying on the table. We don't lay on the table. We vote on bills.
Well, we'll vote to lay it on the table. PBI.
It's been moved in.
We're general.
Some days. It's been moved and seconded that Senator Marston's Senate Bill 390 be passed by indefinitely with a recommendation to the committee that the commission they look at. Is any discussion? If not, if you would open the roll, please, sir.
Roll is open, sir.
If you'd report the vote, sir.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A lot of green lights up there. It's got to be good.
That is, you got to be positive any way that
Thank
you
you.
see it. Senator Senator Chafin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm here today to speak to you about Senate Bill 378, which would reinstate the Coalfield Employment Enhancement Tax Credit. And I have.
Is this the same bill we dealt with in 2017?
It's not the same bill. No, sir. I have that to report to you. This is an entirely different approach that represents compromise. And I have, as you know, we have carried this bill for a number of years, and it has been passed out of the Senate, only to be vetoed by our prior government.
I thought this was a bill that someone was trying to leverage for some other considerations last year. Thank you for clearing that up.
I think that last year's bill was a similar bill, but this year's bill is different in concept, and I am happy to report to the chairman and the members that the new administration has recognized the difference in the concept of this bill, and just this morning I was informed that the administration is going to take no position on this bill.
Well, that's some progress anyway.
That's great progress.
Just goes to show that when
I would imagine
one wagon leaves town, another one comes in.
Yes. So I would like to tell you why that we think that this represents good compromise. Under the new bill, the Coalfield Employment Enhancement Tax Credit would be claimed for metallurgical coal only. Before it expired on December 31 of 2016, the credit was available for all coal mined underground, both steam coal and metallurgical coal. Metallurgical coal or bituminous coal is used to make steel through the process of making coke. Of course, steel is an important product to the United States and the world at large, from making things from my belt buckle to the vehicle that I drove to work in today. Power plants use steam coal, and steam coal would not be eligible for this tax credit. So, I know most of you are probably, maybe all of you are aware, but Southwest Virginia has some of the finest metallurgical coal available to be mined, found anywhere in the world. Metallurgical coal that is produced in Southwest Virginia has an economic impact across the state. It increases coal production in my region, but it results in rail traffic and increased activity at the port as well. This bill will also limit the aggregate amount of Virginia coal employment and production incentive tax credits that may be allocated or claimed by electricity generators to 7.3 million per fiscal year. The bill before you also represents a reduced fiscal impact of only $500,000 in this budget.
Well, thank you for bringing that new and improved version to us. Does any member of the committee have any questions? If not, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of the bill? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Donnie Ratliff. I represent Contour Energy, which is the operating companies that was bought from the Alpha bankruptcy, as well as Buchanan Energy in Buchanan County, which is the old Consol property. This is a jobs bill. It helps us grow and sustain what we've got. In the last 4 years, 8 years really, there's been over 50 coal companies that's filed bankruptcy, Alpha being one of them. Alpha was at one time the third largest coal producer in the United States. And now, after the bankruptcy, we've gone from 1,700 employees in Virginia down to about 600. We have some employees in West Virginia and Pennsylvania. But the senator's exactly right. The cream of the metallurgical coal in the United States is eastern Kentucky, southern West Virginia, and southwest Virginia. Our problem is our seams are 42 inches and less. So we're competing with our neighboring states who have more seam height. Therefore, they get more coal for each time they move the miner. 9 years ago, Alpha was 62% of Dickinson County's tax base. We're now about 20%. The severance tax that's created on the sale of coal, and the higher, it's based off sales price times the tons. So the higher the coal sells for, the more severance tax the counties get to put in their general fund. But we think this is a good bill. We think it's a good compromise. By doing only metallurgical coal, we've really put about a 40% reduction in that, since it won't cover the thermal coal going to the power plants. We would beg your approval of this fine bill, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being with us. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Clark Lewis, Troutman Sanders, representing the Virginia Coal and Energy Alliance. Our board voted to unanimously support this compromise legislation. Our board is made up of both steam coal and metallurgical coal operators and producers, but we appreciate working with Senator Chafin on this forward-looking tax credit program, and we believe it's good not only for Southwest Virginia, but the rail, the ports, and Virginia's entire economy. And we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ryan Dunn with the Virginia Chamber of Commerce, and we do support this bill. The compromise is more than fair in that it's only in the met coal. We stand before you not regionally supporting this for Southwest Virginia, which I know the fine senator here is doing his bidding of his region, but this is really a statewide issue. You know, the coal that's gotten from Southwest Virginia is used on the rails and shipped to the ports. So this is just as much a Hampton Roads issue as it is a Southwest Virginia issue. So the State Chamber of Commerce is all supportive of this bill and hope you'll pass it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, sir.
Mr. Chairman, very briefly, Bill Murray on behalf of Dominion Energy. We support this measure, notwithstanding the changes in it. It's in our customers' interest to have a strong Virginia coal industry. I will note that this bill has nothing to do with how much coal is used. It has to do with how much Virginia coal is used versus coal from other states. I'll further note that for a utility, coal or any fuel is a simple pass-through. There's no markup. There's no profit. It's simply a customer cost. And then finally, Mr. Chairman, I will observe there's been some reference with regard to this bill to a JLARC study of the efficacy of various tax credits. I have the absolute highest respect for JLARC as a former alum there. I will observe that coal has had policy headwinds that are far beyond the scope of tax policy as an industry. What this bill deals with is how much Virginia coal is used, not how much coal is used. And for those reasons, we support the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Anyone else want to speak in favor of the bill? Is there anyone that would like to speak against the bill? Gosh, you've got everybody standing down there, Senator Chafin. You're just
The-
very formidable, sir.
Mr.
Senator
Chairman,
Hanger?
I think you had a motion, Mr. Chairman, to report. I was just I had a comment to add here.
Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It'll be the will of the committee, but I just wanted to point out, in the posture it's in, it will be capping the credit because of just using the metallurgical coal, which is, I think, a good move on this particular bill. It does have a fiscal impact, and typically we put the clause on. I don't think that, obviously, that since we've supported this before, that would put it in any jeopardy, but it does have some fiscal impact in this current budget that we need to put on our spreadsheet. So I would suggest that we put the clause on it.
Is your suggestion in the form of a motion or
I'll let the
something?
committee think about it, because it's a commitment if we
I'll
don't.
tell you, the last 24 hours, we've been asked to think about too darn much.
I would,
Mr. Chairman,
I'm
before
sorry.
we think about,
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Senator Carrico.
before we think about it, I think that the agency, or Senator Chafin and all those involved have thought about this for the last 3 years. They came to the compromise by reducing that amount by about 40%, I think it is now. And I believe it's something that's vitally important to our region, and that if we put that clause on it, that we basically put it in jeopardy in some extent. So I would hope we wouldn't put the clause on this bill, because this has been delayed and delayed and delayed for too long.
Well, I'm interested in your comments. I'm not predicting what the committee will do, but I just hope that there will be some reciprocity considerations when we look at other regions of the state and bills come forward. Ladies and gentlemen, the committee acts by motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to report the bill.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 378, which has been scaled back and is not what we saw in 2017, and obviously not a vehicle for leverage, be reported. If everyone would please note your vote.
Roll is open.
If you would report the bill, please.
Ayes 13, noes 3.
Ayes 13, noes 3. Senate Bill 378 is reported.
Mr. Chairman, I thank you and the members of the committee.
You are certainly welcome. Next, Senator Favola. You have Senate Bill
200. Thank you, Mr.
200.
Chairman. And there is an amendment in the nature of a substitute, so I would ask the committee adopt that.
It's been moved and seconded that the substitute be adopted. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, and the amendment in the nature of substitute is before us. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, this is not a new bill. What it would do is grant counties the same powers of taxation that are granted to municipalities. There is a delayed enactment, July 1, 2019, but I think probably most important to the committee is that there's also language asking that this bill be referred to the Local Government Fiscal Stress Review Committee, so staff can really go through all the various provisions of the tax codes that municipalities enjoy and determine if there are unintended consequences or what exactly would be the best way for approaching the intent of the bill, which is equal taxing authority. So I respectfully ask that the committee adopt the bill as presented.
Does any member of the committee have any questions of the senator regarding Senate Bill 200? Is anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of the bill? Yes, ma'am. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm Katie Boyle with the Virginia Association of Counties. We strongly support this bill. We feel it's a matter of fairness, and our friends at the Virginia Municipal League are also in support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. My name's Tim Thompson. I'm the president of the Fairfax County Federation of Citizen Association, representing between 80 and 100,000 households up in Fairfax County. We greatly support this bill, sir.
Thank you for being with us this morning. Anyone else in favor? Anyone who has a perhaps differing opinion on Senate Bill 200? You were looking anxious. I don't see anyone.
Mi-
Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, Senate Bill 200 is before you, an amendment in the nature of the substitute.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
I
we
just
have
want
it.
to say that the jurisdictions that asked me to come forward with the bill were looking for other revenue streams to finance the schools so they don't have to rely so heavily on the real estate tax.
Senator Howe moves and Senator Hanger seconds the adoption of the amendment in the nature of substitute. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, the substitute is adopted. Ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill 200, amendment in the nature of substitute is before you.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hanger.
This actually is something that I may support by next year. I think it's a heavy lift today in terms of making this decision. It is a subject that the enactment clause, the third enactment clause does suggest that this policy be reviewed by the Joint Subcommittee on Local Government Fiscal Stress. And I'm hoping over the course of this next year that we can get to the point that this would be able to pass in some form, particularly as it applies to tobacco products and several other initiatives that we may be able to address. But unless there are others that want to speak to it, I would recommend that we PBI it, but refer it by letter to the Joint Subcommittee on Local Government Fiscal Stress.
Is there a second to that motion? It's been moved and seconded that the Senate bill be passed by indefinitely with a letter of reference to have it examined. Any discussion? If not, if you'd please open the roll.
Roll is open.
If you report the vote.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15.
Thank you.
Senator Eben, good morning, sir. I believe you have Senate Bill 963.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 963, I think, is a win-win for everyone on this dais and everyone in the General Assembly and their constituents. What it does is it benefits the Virginia taxpayers who are paying the most in taxes, but it also particularly benefits school districts and students who receive free and reduced lunch, and it benefits through them through the at-risk poverty add-on. So students in Bedford County, where 35% are free and reduced lunch, or Fairfax, 27%, Grayson, 61%, Henrico, 40.63%, Lynchburg, 70%, Mecklenburg, 60%, Norfolk, 70%, and then Petersburg, 100%, and then Virginia Beach, 37%, and Williamsburg, James City County Public Schools, 30.81%. And I'm sorry to Senator Vogel, did she leave? Okay, well, Senator Vogel, it doesn't benefit her constituents enough. She's has a pretty wealthy district, but it benefits her taxpayers, if not her schools. And what it does is it establishes a fund, the Commonwealth Competitiveness Fund, and it would give taxpayers a credit in the amount of 90% for what they donate to the fund. And the fund would be spent on exclusively public purposes, but 10% of the money in the fund would go to that at-risk school districts based on the at-risk add-on, based on the concentration of children qualifying for the federal free and reduced lunch program. And the key points are that the credit provides maximum benefit to the state, the passage creates no financial risk to the state, and taxpayers who choose to take the credit currently get a deduction from the federal tax returns, and if there's any dispute, they would have a good chance in succeeding via the IRS. Right now in Virginia, or I should say under 33 states, there are 100 credits that currently take advantage of federal tax law, including land preservation tax credit in Virginia, food crop donation, neighborhood assistance tax credit, and education improvement scholarship tax credit. So the credits are designed to advance the state purpose while maximizing tax benefits to the taxpayers who participate, to encourage certain behavior or to advance the state interest, the state's interest. This bill in particularly impacts us with the state and local tax deduction as it relates to taxpayers who can't currently, as of this tax year, deduct their state income tax from their federal taxes they've been doing for all the time that I know since federal taxes were there, or since that deduction was there. So there's zero risk or economic downside to the Commonwealth. To the contrary, the taxpayers who contribute to the fund will end up paying more into the state than taxpayers who choose not to contribute. And we know that the IRS Section 170C of the RSC says, for the purposes of this section, the term charitable contribution means a contribution or gift. And one of the choices is, according to Section 1, is a state or possession of the United States if the contribution is made for exclusive public purposes, as it's done. And the reason this would be upheld by the IRS, based on past cases, is it's voluntary.
Senator Eben, let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
I would ask counsel, there was previously a question about, I remember back in the first year of law school, something about gifts. Has the issue regarding donative intent been resolved in your minds?
Mr. Chairman, I think the reason why there still may be a question there is that while 100% is going into the fund, it really doesn't stay there because only 10% goes to the purposes of the bill. The other 90% arguably is there because it goes back in the form of the credit. And that's where I think the question would be, if the Commonwealth really wanted that type of program, it would keep 100% of the funds and would not just set aside the 10%.
Thank you.
I would just say that I wish I had my tax expert who wanted to come down, an attorney, but he
Well, I'm probably going to listen to our attorneys.
I understand, but I just want to make a point, if I might, that the Fourth Circuit has a case, Route 231 LLC versus Commissioner, and while not directly on point, the Fourth Circuit has clearly upheld the full deduction rule, and the pages 11 through 13 of federal tax treatment of state charitable tax credit paper I have, which is way too long, and I can share that with counsel. But the point is that even if they didn't uphold it, the state would come out ahead. We would get 10% more than the taxpayer would pay in taxes at least, unless they contributed more than that.
All right, let's see where we're going on this. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this bill? Is there anyone who may have some reservations they want to express about the bill? Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, you've heard the senator's explanation on Senate Bill 963. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, just one closing point, because you're concerned about whether it would fall in with the IRS if it could hurt. And I would say that enactment clause number 3 says that if the federal agency or federal court issues an applicable public ruling that the amount of the credit allowed would be equal to the amount as determined by such agency or court. So in other words, we wouldn't lose something, but the 10% minimum, we would assume that Rule 4 would still be deductible.
Adam, just so there's no equivocation, I thought I had perhaps by subtlety suggested to you, I'm listening to our attorneys.
I understand. I just wanted to make the point that your attorneys wrote this.
Okay. Ladies and
They
gentlemen,
wrote this
Move the bill be
reported.
Ladies and gentlemen, the committee's, there's bills before the committee.
I just made a motion.
I'm sorry? I just didn't hear you.
I said move the bill be reported.
Oh, would be reported? Okay. It's been moved and seconded that the Senate Bill 963 be reported. Any discussion? Senator Sasslaw?
Yeah, I don't have a problem voting for this, and I suspect you're going to see bills like this as a result of what happened. You're going to see bills like this in all 50 states
Yeah.
to get around this.
Probably.
So, I mean, I don't see where there's any big harm, and so I would vote for reporting.
Okay. Any further discussions? If not, if you would open the roll, sir.
The vote is open.
If you would report the vote, please.
Ayes 4, noes 12.
Ayes 4, noes 12. The bill is not reported. Thank you very much for your novelty approach. I believe that concludes the 9 members. Senator Donovan. If I could direct the committee's attention to Senate Bill 335, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is very much in vein with the bills that Senator Sturtevant presented on increasing personal property deduction, not as elegant or sophisticated as his, but I do like to bring this. The only 2 points I'd like to add to what Senator Sturtevant said was that we look at appropriating a lot of money up here as we get it in over the course of time. And we're trying to do that in the best interest of the Commonwealth. And sometimes I think individuals know how to do that best themselves by letting them keep some of their dollars. Additionally, this does affect our business rating as a state. We are downgraded because we do not have our personal property tax tied to any other market indicator where it increases like it does at the national level in over 20 other states. So with those 2 comments, I'm at the mercy of the committee.
Don't use the term mercy, please. It scares me when I hear that from a doctor. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone who would like to speak against the bill? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we thank Senator Donovan for her succinct presentation. Senator Bill 335 is before you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Senator.
Following the pattern that we've established, Senator Donovan, I would suggest or move that we PBI the bill, but refer the subject matter by letter to the committee previously that we've referenced.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 335? If you would open the roll, please. If you would report the You will add the vote. All right. All right. It looks like 15 to 0. To 1. Yes, I apologize. All right. Senator Hanger. Well, let's see. Did Senator Stanley come in? Did you have a bill, sir? Yes, sir. All right. If you,
That'll be quick.
Senator Hanger moves, Norman seconds PBI. Is that quick enough?
That's quicker than I even could do it.
Never, sir. Well, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, sir. Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 883 is the parrot bill of Delegate Moorfield's Southwest Economic Development Bill. I think we've heard a lot about it so far. I was told last night, and so I apologize for coming to this committee right now, that Delegate Moorfield is working with Delegate Jones and people in retooling some of the language, which would make it different, which means this bill would probably then be in the nature of a substitute different. And so he has asked if he could just have a little more time to get his right, and then I can present mine. And you know, I like to lead and not follow, but in this instance, I've been working with Senator Carrico on this, and certainly I believe that, you know, ultimately we want to find a solution, economic solution for Southwest Virginia that has this as one of its
Senator
components.
Stanley, you're part of our leadership team. I expect you to lead, not be a follower, sir.
Sir, yes, sir.
You know, especially to somebody unnamed person in another unnamed body. I mean,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'm in foreign territory.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had an opportunity yesterday to talk to Delegate Moorfield as well, and I know we don't normally like to talk to House members at this point.
We don't like to talk to him at all.
But he is really working on this, and he may be able to come up with something together that will
all right,
work.
Senator Hanger moves and Senator Howell seconds that Senate Bill 883 be passed by for the day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Senator Carrico.
All right, Senator Hanger, thank you very much.
You got it. You know, I told Moorfield, if you don't want to pay any income taxes, that's fine, but we also won't send you any public schools either.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I have in front of the committee today Senate Bill 573, which is the Green Job Creation Tax Credit, which would simply extend the sunset provision for 3 years. Mr. Chairman, I had reservations actually about extending this because it's only been used modestly, but it has been used. What it does is provides a credit of up to $500 per year for 5 years for a qualifying job with a salary of at least $50,000 per year. The green jobs are defined within the measure. And, Mr. Chairman, one of the areas where solar generation of electricity is one of the areas that's generally included as green energy, And I was thinking with the tariff that was announced by the president just last week of 30%, that we may be wanting to manufacture solar panels in Virginia now. So I think the bill may have a lot more interest over the next few years.
Senator Hanger, if I could ask you the dispositive question, does this have a fiscal impact?
It was included in the introduced budget. It's modest, but it was included
Thank you
in the
very
introduced
much.
budget. All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the fine bill, Senate Bill 573, as proffered by Senator Hanger. Is any questions? Anyone who'd like to speak in favor of it? Anyone who would like to speak contrary to it? If not, Senator Hanger moves and Senator Howell seconds, reporting Senate Bill 573. Any discussion? If you'd open the roll.
The roll is open.
If you would report the vote, please.
16, no 0.
Thank
The
you, Mr.
bill is
Chairman.
reported 16-0. Does that complete the calendar? With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm disappointed to say we have completed the agenda for the morning, so you have a little time before we go into session. The committee will rise.